When Jeff Bezos quit his high-paying Wall Street job in 1994, he had only a garage, an old desk, and $300,000 in capital. 30 years later, Amazon is worth over $1.7 trillion, and Jeff had become one of the world's richest people. So how did this incredible transformation happen? How did that simple book-selling idea in a garage turn into history's largest e-commerce empire? This is the epic journey of a visionary who first recognized the power of the internet, who wasn't afraid of risk, and who never gave up. But Jeff Bezos' story isn't just about technology and money. This is the story of how a child who was a genius in mathematics but struggled socially, who learned life lessons during summer vacations with his grandfather, whose physics education at Princeton and analytical intelligence on Wall Street combined to create an extraordinary visionary. Here are the incredible details you'll see in this story. Before founding Amazon, Jeff worked at a hedge fund earning $1 million annually. He risked all of that money. His first office was literally a garage, and he packed orders himself. He didn't make any profit for the first 3 years, and investors called him crazy. So why did he start with books? Amazon's first name was Cadabra, but when his lawyer heard cadaver, corpse, on the phone, he had to change the name. His reason for choosing Amazon was very strategic. He wanted to be first in alphabetical listings. Even this detail shows how far ahead he was thinking. He experienced his first major crisis in 2000. The dot-com bubble burst, and Amazon's stock value dropped 90%. Everyone thought the company would fail. The media declared Jeff a failed entrepreneur. But in the middle of the crisis, he made his biggest investment. He started developing Amazon Web Services. This decision laid the foundation for AWS, which today is Amazon's most profitable division. The space adventure is an obsession that has continued since childhood. Why did he establish Blue Origin? Because at age 18, in his graduation speech, he talked about his dream of turning Earth into a nature preserve. 25 years later, he's spending billions of dollars to realize this dream. How did the controversies about Jeff's worker rights begin? Why are working conditions in Amazon's logistics centers so harshly criticized? And most importantly, what does it feel like to be the world's richest person? In this story, you'll also see how Jeff stood out with mathematical intelligence in childhood, how he studied physics at Princeton but switched to computer science, how he built a hedge fund on Wall Street, and why at age 30, he left everything behind and moved to Seattle. The most surprising part is this. When Jeff founded Amazon, he estimated that the internet would only grow by 2,300%. In reality, internet growth far exceeded his predictions. This miscalculation became the foundation of his greatest success. How did Amazon's evolution into everything store develop? From books to electronics, from cloud computing to space technology, from artificial intelligence to logistics, how did Jeff find the courage to enter every sector? This story will show you that the greatest successes come from the greatest risks. Jeff Bezos' journey from garage to trillion-dollar empire is proof of how vision, perseverance, and perfect timing can create miracles. Are you ready? Then let's begin the incredible story of Amazon's founder. On a cold January morning, the baby born at St. Joseph Hospital in Albuquerque didn't yet know what life would bring him. Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen, who took his first breath on January 12, 1964, was beginning a journey that would change the lives of billions of people in the future. His 17-year-old mother, Jacqueline Geese, had become pregnant while walking through high school corridors. His father, Ted Jorgensen, was an irresponsible young man who performed acrobatics in a circus. When the baby was born, Ted was only 19 years old, and couldn't bear the weight of fatherly responsibility. He left the house in the middle of one night and never returned. While Jeff was taking his first steps, his father had completely disappeared from his life. This early separation would leave a deep mark on Jeff's life, but perhaps it would also make him stronger. Jacqueline returned to her family with her baby. Jeff's grandfather, Preston Geese, was a disciplined and visionary engineer, working for the Atomic Energy Commission. The moment Preston first saw his grandson Jeff, he felt something special. There was a different light in this baby, as if his eyes were constantly searching for something. Jeff's first words were why and how. Even at age 2, he questioned everything, taking his toys apart to understand how they worked. By age 3, he found a screwdriver in the drawer next to his crib and completely dismantled the crib. When his mother entered the room, she found Jeff sitting on the floor with crib parts scattered around him. "I want a big boy bed," Jeff said, as if what he did was the most natural thing. At that moment, Jacqueline realized that her son wasn't an ordinary child. This child would find his own ways to overcome obstacles. When Jeff was 4, a second turning point came into his life. His mother met a Cuban engineer named Miguel "Mike" Bezos. Mike had immigrated to America alone at age 16, built a life from nothing when he had nothing, and was a man of strong character. He worked as a petroleum engineer at ExxonMobil and knew what it took to succeed in life. When Mike and Jacqueline married, he adopted Jeff and gave him his surname. From that day on, he became Jeffrey Preston Bezos. Mike became not just a stepfather, but a real mentor for Jeff. Jeff absorbed Mike's work ethic, discipline, and "nothing is impossible" philosophy. But the person who really shaped Jeff's character was his grandfather Preston. Every summer, the vacations he spent at the 25,000-acre ranch in Texas developed Jeff's practical intelligence and problem-solving abilities. His grandfather's ranch was a giant laboratory for Jeff. One summer morning, Jeff had gone to the barn with his grandfather. One of the cows had fallen ill, and the veterinarian was busy with another emergency in town. Preston turned to Jeff and said, "Jeff, we have to treat this cow. You tell me what we're going to do." 8-year-old Jeff walked around the cow, examined the symptoms, and applied what he remembered from veterinary books he had read before. He made the correct diagnosis and suggested treatment. The cow recovered within a few days. That day, Preston realized that his grandson had not only intelligence, but also practical wisdom. Summer days at the ranch gave Jeff life lessons. He learned to operate tractors, do electrical work, and repair machines. But most importantly, he learned to systematically produce solutions instead of panicking when faced with any problem. When they moved to Miami, Jeff was 10 years old. At Palmetto High School, he was elected student council president and graduated as valedictorian, top student. But Jeff's real passion was mathematics and physics. During high school, he participated in NASA's summer camp and gained in-depth knowledge about space technology. In his senior year of high school, Jeff had his first entrepreneurship experience. He established a summer camp called Dream Institute. This camp taught creative thinking, problem-solving, and science techniques to children aged 10 to 15. He wrote the camp's advertisement himself. A fun and educational program. Your children will learn to think like Einstein. The camp was a great success. Jeff not only made money but also learned what it meant to organize people, share vision, and turn an idea into reality. This experience laid the foundation for his future entrepreneurial spirit. When he applied to Princeton University, Jeff was very excited the day the acceptance letter arrived. Princeton had one of the world's most prestigious physics departments at the time. Jeff wanted to study theoretical physics and follow in Einstein's footsteps. But his first year at Princeton showed him a very different reality. In physics classes, Jeff encountered students with genius-level talents like himself. For the first time in his life, he realized he wasn't the smartest person. Especially in quantum mechanics class, he had difficulty understanding some concepts. One day, after class, he approached his professor and asked, "Professor, can I really succeed in theoretical physics?" The professor answered Jeff honestly, "You're a very intelligent student, Jeff, but theoretical physics isn't just about intelligence. It requires intuition and creativity. Maybe you could be more successful in other fields." This conversation deeply affected Jeff. That night he thought long and hard in his dorm room. If he gave up physics, what would he do? The next day he went to the computer science department and attended their classes. After the first programming class, he felt as if he had found the right place. Computer science came naturally to Jeff. It combined logic, mathematics, and problem-solving abilities. It was also a new and rapidly developing field. Jeff could see his future here. The graduation thesis he wrote in his final year at Princeton was titled "The Finite Field Structure of Finite String Theory," and combined mathematics with computer science. In his graduation speech, he made a remarkable statement. "One day I want to turn Earth into a nature preserve by doing industrial production in space." At the time, these words seemed very fantastical. No one could imagine that Jeff would actually establish a space company and go to space 30 years later. After graduation, Jeff received very prestigious job offers. Intel offered him a hardware engineering position. Anderson Consulting wanted him to work in consulting. But Jeff chose Wall Street. The reason was simple. He wanted to understand financial markets because money worked the same way power worked. He started his first job at Fitel. This company developed computer networks for international trade. Jeff's job was to write algorithms that processed financial data quickly. He proved himself from the first day. In just 2 years, he became one of the company's youngest managers. In 1988, he moved to Bankers Trust. Here Jeff was introduced to the hedge fund world. Hedge funds were sophisticated investment vehicles that made money from markets using mathematics and technology. It was a perfect field for Jeff because he could both use his analytical intelligence and invest in technology. During his years at Bankers Trust, Jeff learned how financial markets worked. Risk management, portfolio optimization, derivative instruments. He learned all of them thoroughly. But at the same time, he saw the limitations of Wall Street. He could make a lot of money here, but couldn't create something that would change the world. In 1990, he made the most important job change of his life. He joined D.E. Shaw Hedge Fund. David Shaw was one of Wall Street's most brilliant investors, and his company was a technology-focused hedge fund. Its employees consisted of mathematicians, physicists, and computer experts. At D.E. Shaw, Jeff gained deep expertise in both technology and finance. The company's vision was very clear: gain advantage in financial markets using technology. Jeff's analytical intelligence shone here. In just 4 years, he became the company's youngest vice president. By 1993, Jeff's salary had exceeded $1 million annually. It was an astronomical figure for that time. David Shaw saw Jeff as his company's heir. A bright Wall Street career stretched ahead of Jeff. But that year, Jeff read a report that would change his life. The report said, "Internet usage is growing at 2,300% annually." Jeff read this figure over and over again. 2,300%. He had never seen such a growth rate in any sector, in any period. This was an unprecedented opportunity in history. For months, he researched the Internet. At that time, the Internet was still very primitive. Websites were text-heavy, had no visuals, and shopping was nearly impossible. But Jeff saw the potential. The Internet would become the world's largest marketplace in the future. He began researching products that could be sold over the Internet. He made a list: books, music, electronics, clothing, toys. He analyzed each one. Finally, he decided on books. His reasons were very logical. First, books were standardized products. The same book in two different stores was exactly the same, which made comparison easy. Second, book variety was enormous. There were millions of different books in the world, and no physical store could stock them all. Third, books were light and easy to ship by mail. Most importantly, the book market was both small and fragmented. Even the largest book chain, Barnes & Noble, only had 12% of the total market. This meant there was room for a new player to enter. As Jeff developed his plan, his excitement grew. This wasn't just a business opportunity, it was a vision that could change the world. People would be able to access books from all over the world without leaving their homes. But there was a big problem. To realize this plan, he would have to leave D.E. Shaw. He would give up his annual $1 million salary, his secure career, and David Shaw's trust. There were no guarantees. One evening, he had a long conversation with his wife, Mackenzie. Mackenzie had studied English literature at Princeton and was an intelligent and supportive woman. Jeff explained his plan to her. "I'm going to sell books on the internet. Does this sound crazy?" Mackenzie thought and gave this answer. "Jeff, you'll regret it if you don't do this plan. Even if you fail, at least you'll have tried. But if you don't try, you'll think, what if, for the rest of your life." These words made Jeff's decision. The next day he went into David Shaw's office and said he was resigning. Shaw was shocked. "Jeff, you've gone crazy. This is a good idea, but not for someone who already has a good job. Take back your resignation, right now." But Jeff had made his decision. On his last day of work, Shaw said to him, "Don't make this mistake, Jeff. You'll regret it in 20 years. Jeff smiled. "David, I'll regret it if I don't try." The decision to move to Seattle was strategic. First, Washington State had no sales tax, which reduced costs. Second, the presence of Microsoft and other tech companies made it easy to find qualified personnel. Third, the largest book distributor, Ingram Book Group's distribution center, was nearby. While going to Seattle, Jeff wrote Amazon's business plan on his laptop in the back seat of the Chevy Blazer that Mackenzie was driving. Throughout the journey, while Mackenzie drove the car, Jeff calculated figures and developed strategies. When they arrived in Seattle, they rented a small house in Bellevue. The garage became Amazon's first headquarters. Jeff's first desk consisted of a $60 wooden door from Home Depot and 4 4x4 wooden pieces. This desk later became the symbol of Amazon's frugality value. The first thing they needed to do was find a name for the company. The first thing that came to Jeff's mind was cadabra, magician term. But when he called his lawyer, what happened was very funny. "Hello, my company's name will be Cadabra," Jeff said. "Cadaver?" asked the lawyer. "No, cadabra. Yes, cadaver, meaning corpse." Jeff realized the name was being misunderstood on the phone. He needed to find a new name. He began scanning words, starting with A in the dictionary, because he wanted to appear at the top of alphabetical lists. When he saw Amazon, it immediately caught his attention. The Amazon River was the world's largest river and started with exotic. Jeff dreamed that his company would also be the world's largest store. It was decided, Amazon.com. To find the first programmer, Jeff applied a very creative strategy. There was an experienced software developer named Shel Caffin, and Jeff definitely wanted to convince him. He invited Shel to the office in the garage. When he opened the door, Jeff never forgot the expression on Shel's face, a mixture of astonishment, curiosity, and a bit of concern. The garage floor was concrete. There was no heating system. Jeff's desk was really made from a door. On the walls, there was only a whiteboard with Amazon's vision written on it. Earth's biggest bookstore. "Shel, I'm going to make you the craziest offer you've ever heard," Jeff said, with that familiar sparkle in his eyes. "Join me in changing the internet. No salary guarantee, no office luxury. But how about making history?" While listening to Jeff's vision, Shell was impressed. Especially Jeff's views on the future of the internet were very convincing. "Jeff, this could really work. How many people understand the potential of the internet?" he said. That day, he became Amazon's first employee. The first weeks they spent together were like a marathon. They started at 7 a.m. and finished after midnight. Jeff and Shell were coding Amazon's first website. At that time, there was no such thing as e-commerce. They had to invent everything from scratch: shopping cart, payment system, inventory tracking, customer accounts. Mackenzie was also an integral part of the team. She handled accounting, prepared the first marketing materials, and even helped with packaging. In the evenings, the three of them would eat pizza together in the garage and make future plans. "If this business works, we can get 1,000 orders a day in 5 years, Jeff said excitedly. Shell laughed. "Jeff, isn't 1,000 orders too much? We haven't even found our first customer yet." But Jeff's vision was limitless. Amazon.com went live in July 1995. The first week they only announced it to friends and family because they weren't sure if the system would work stably. The first order came from Jeff's old Princeton friend, a science book called Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies. When Jeff received that first order, he was very excited. "Shell! Mackenzie! We made our first sale!" he shouted. He packaged the book himself, took it to the post office, and called the customer to thank them. That day, the foundations of Amazon's customer-focused culture were laid. But the real shock happened in the second week. Even though they hadn't advertised, 10-15 orders started coming daily. Word of mouth was working. People were discovering how practical it was to order books from home. In the third week, daily orders exceeded 50. Jeff was panicking because if they grew at this rate, the system would crash. Shell was working 18 hours a day trying to strengthen the infrastructure. Mackenzie couldn't keep up with packaging. "We need to hire more people," Mackenzie said one evening, rubbing her hands. Her knees hurt a lot because of the door they used as a packaging table. "Maybe we should buy real tables." Jeff thought and made this decision. "No, the door tables will stay. This reminds us to be frugal. But you're right, we need to hire people." Their first real employees were Nicholas Lovejoy and Paul Barton Davis. Both were technology experts and believed in Jeff's vision. The garage was starting to get very crowded. 5 people were working in a garage, preparing hundreds of packages every day. By the end of 1995, Amazon was receiving 100 orders per day. This figure exceeded even Jeff's most optimistic estimates. But a big problem emerged: money was running out. They needed to pay book suppliers, there were employee salaries, server costs were increasing. Jeff urgently needed to find investors. His first family investor was his mother and father, Mike Bezos. Jeff explained the situation to them. "This business will work, but I need more money. Can you give me $100,000? Mike and Jackie Bezos believed in their son's vision and gave their money. Then Jeff met an experienced businessman named Tom Allberg. Tom was a former executive of McCaw Cellular and was an expert in technology investments. When Jeff presented Amazon's plans to him, Tom was very impressed. "Jeff, this isn't just book sales, you're creating a new retail model." Tom Allberg invested another $100,000 and became a board member of Amazon. With this money, Amazon could survive until 1996. But for real growth, much more money was needed. The real breakthrough began in 1996. Kleiner Perkins was one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious venture capital companies. John Doerr, a partner at Kleiner Perkins, visited Amazon. He was surprised to see the garage office, but was impressed when he listened to Jeff's vision. "Jeff, this isn't just e-commerce. You're creating the future of the internet," Doerr said. Kleiner Perkins decided to invest $8 million in Amazon. This money opened a very big door for Jeff. He could now rent a real office, open a warehouse, and do marketing. Their first real office was in a business center in Bellevue. Jeff experienced very emotional moments that day. They had finally left the garage. But he continued the tradition of door desks from the garage. These desks became part of Amazon's DNA. In 1996, Amazon's employee count went from 15 to 150. But as they grew, they faced serious problems. Traditional book giants like Barnes & Noble had noticed Amazon and declared war. Barnes & Noble described Amazon as an electronic flea market and established its own website. Jeff saw these attacks as opportunities. "Our competitors are starting to notice us. This is proof that we're on the right path," he told his employees. Amazon's strategy was clear: customer obsession, long-term thinking, and continuous innovation. When price wars started, Jeff didn't hesitate. Barnes & Noble started selling books with 30% discount. Amazon made it 40%. Competitors went to 50%. Jeff went to 60%. Wall Street analysts said, "Amazon will go bankrupt." But Jeff didn't give up his strategy. "Our job is to make customers happy. Making money comes second," Jeff said in meetings. "If there's customer satisfaction, money will come eventually." This philosophy drove investors crazy, but Jeff's belief was unshakable. Amazon went public in 1997. It was offered at $18 per share and rose to $23 on the first day. Jeff was now a millionaire on paper, but real wealth was still far away, and there were big storms ahead. In 1998, Amazon started music sales. CDs were standard products like books and were easy to ship by mail. Then came movies, electronics, and toys. Jeff's vision was to create an everything store, a store where everything was sold. Each new category meant new competitors and new challenges. Tower Records started a music war. Toys R Us attacked in the toy category. Jeff was fighting on every front, but his morale was high. "As long as we make the customer experience the best, we'll win." The biggest crisis came in 2000. The dot-com bubble burst and technology companies' stock values hit bottom. Amazon stock fell from $113 to $6, 95% value loss. This was the darkest period in Jeff's life. Barron's magazine came out with the headline "Amazon.bomb" on its cover. Lehman Brothers announced that Amazon was a company heading for bankruptcy. Employees started resigning, investors panicked, everyone thought Amazon was finished. But Jeff saw this crisis as the biggest opportunity. One morning he gathered his employees and said, "Friends, we're writing history right now. Our competitors are going bankrupt. Advertising is cheap. Talented people are looking for jobs. This is our biggest opportunity." During that period, Jeff made the most strategic decision. He started developing Amazon Web Services. He developed the idea of renting Amazon's computer infrastructure, which they built for their own internal needs, to other companies as well. Everyone around him thought this idea was crazy. "Jeff, you're a bookseller, not a technology company." But Jeff's vision was much bigger. In the future of the internet, every company would need computer infrastructure. But not everyone could build their own data centers. Amazon could provide this service. In 2001, Amazon made a profit for the first time in its history. $1 million. Jeff brought champagne to the office that day and celebrated. "We're now a profitable company," he said. This was proof that Amazon would survive. Amazon Web Services launched in 2006. The first customers were small startups because big companies didn't trust Amazon. But companies like Airbnb, Uber, and Netflix grew rapidly thanks to AWS. Today, AWS is Amazon's most profitable division and the leader in the cloud market. Another of Jeff's visions materialized in 2007, the Kindle e-reader. Seeing Steve Jobs' iPhone, Jeff realized that Amazon also needed to make hardware. If we can't digitize the book-reading experience, others will do it before us, he said. The Kindle project took 3 years and cost $50 million. When the first Kindle was released in 2007, it sold out in 6 hours. The e-book market was thus born, and Amazon became the leader of this market. In 2013, Jeff's personal wealth exceeded $25 billion. He was now among the world's richest people. The same year, he bought the Washington Post newspaper for $250 million. He explained his reason. Democracy needs a strong press. The space dream had been continuing since childhood. He established Blue Origin Space Company in 2000. Every year, he transfers $1 billion to Blue Origin by selling Amazon shares. His vision is clear: a future where millions of people will live in space. In 2021, Jeff stepped down as CEO and focused on Blue Origin. The same year, he went to space with his own spacecraft. He described that moment. "It was the most beautiful day of my life. I realized what I had dreamed of since childhood." Today, Amazon has 1.5 million employees and operates in more than 100 countries as a global power. The journey from that small bookstore in the garage to a technology giant that changes the world has been completed. Jeff Bezos' story from garage to trillion-dollar empire gives all of us a powerful message. The greatest successes come from the greatest risks. This extraordinary journey that started with $300,000 in capital and created Amazon, now worth $1.7 trillion, is proof of how vision, determination, and customer obsession can create miracles. The first and most important lesson we can draw from Jeff's story is this: seeing the future is not enough. You must act according to it. When Jeff saw the potential of the internet in 1994, he left his secure Wall Street career and jumped into the unknown. Most people see opportunities but don't have the courage to take action. Jeff applied the regret minimization philosophy. When I look back at age 80, what will I regret not trying? The second critical lesson: put the customer at the center of everything. The secret to Amazon's success is customer obsession. Jeff constantly said, "The most important person for us is the customer. We watch our customers, not our competitors." This approach shows itself in every decision Amazon makes. They spare no cost to improve customer experience. The third valuable lesson: think long-term and be patient. Amazon didn't make a profit for 7 years, but Jeff didn't give up his strategy. Unlike those from Wall Street, he chose long-term growth over short-term profit. Our time horizon is 5 to 7 years. If you want results in 3 months, you're at the wrong company, he said. The fourth powerful principle: see failure as a learning opportunity. Jeff's Fire Phone fiasco caused a $170 million loss, but this failure laid the foundation for Amazon Echo. Failure is an inseparable part of innovation. If you're not failing, you're not trying enough, he said. The fifth important message: use the power of technology, but don't make technology for technology's sake. Every technological innovation of Amazon was developed to solve customer problems. AWS emerged from customer demands. Kindle was created to improve the reading experience. So how can you apply these lessons in your own life? First, monitor the changes around you and try to see future opportunities. Recognizing big trends like the internet early is the key to success. Second, prioritize the customer-user perspective in every decision you make. Third, set long-term goals and don't be discouraged by short-term obstacles. Great successes take time and require patience. Fourth, see your failures as learning opportunities. Every no answer is a step on the way to the right yes. Finally, dream big like Jeff and make bold decisions. He carried his dream of going to space since childhood and realized it at age 57. When he founded Amazon, his vision of everything store of the world seemed crazy, but today it's real. Jeff Bezos' story shows us that journeys that start with vision, continue with risk, and never give up change history. The path from that door desk in the garage to world leadership is also open for you. All you need to do is take the right risk at the right time and work with customer obsession. Remember, the greatest opportunities are hidden within the greatest uncertainties.